Well, and that's an interesting point. So let me mention something that you named in your presentation. You said that relationship is the antidote to racism. And it occurs to me that many youth are inherently relational. So how do you think that could play out in developing a pedagogical approach to anti-racism education that works for young folks?
Um, I really love this question because I love the fact that we're naming that youth are inherently relational, right? That this is a characteristic, that this isn't something that, that we, because we were youth at one point, right? I mean, so like we were meant to be interconnected and to be in community together. And so I love that you bring us back to this space. Like this is where they are. So if youth are inherently relational, then it behooves us to contribute to that way of being, right? To that characteristic, then to take them in a different way that's more comfortable for us. So, for
Mm.
example, when I think about, excuse me, how it could play out, I, and I talk about this in the webinar as well, is that traditional learning approaches have somebody that's right in the front, usually white and male, right, middle class, Christian, whatever, that's at the front, that's kind of like spitting out all of these things, right? But there's no relational anything in that, right? Like there's me, or whoever the person is that's there, that is limited by the extent of what I know, right, or what I've learned, and I'm sharing this, but there isn't any relationship that's going. So if we're leaning into this relational pieces, and if we are going to also move toward away from traditional approaches which are embedded with, kind of racist elements, to more of an engaged pedagogical approach, right, then that kind of says, hey, everyone, if this is a relational space, everybody's a teacher and everybody's a learner. So what does that look like? It looks like weaving relationship building into the curriculum. It
Mhm.
looks like actually creating spaces for relationship, because while I'm teaching, instruction is just one mode of learning, right?
Yeah.
Conversations in small groups, plenary conversations, self-reflection, right? Interaction. These are all different ways that contribute to the learning process. And so if we're sticking with this relational approach just for the benefit of this conversation, then it would be important for us to ensure that we're weaving relationship into the curriculum. And so what does that look like? Intentional spaces for people to process discussion, and not just process what's being taught, but also unstructured spaces to cultivate relationships, right?
Yeah.
To be able to recognize, that we are all, beings that are doing the best we can with the tools that we have been given to work with, and we're able to connect and to guide. And so allowing youth to relate. Here's relational, relate to not just each other, but to what's happening in the world, current events, in community, engaging them in these processes are super important so that they can recognize, because if relationship is the antidote to racism, then we need to ensure, then think about what happens when um, you and I are in relationship. And if you and I are in relationship, it takes time and investment for us to really cultivate and strengthen that relationship that we have. The same thing is for youth. Inherently relational, it takes time and energy for them to cultivate that. And that's what's needed to be able to interrupt these systems that we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that.